Buenas tardes, good afternoon, buenas tardes a todos. Yo voy a hablar en inglés. Disculpe. Well, first of all, I would like to thank the Center for Responsible Tourism of the Metropolitan University of Leeds, and also University of Sao Paulo for inviting me to speak at this conference. As Harold Goodwin recalled a moment ago, I was also at the first of these series of conferences back in 2002 in Cape Town. And I think it's a merit that they have continued organizing this conference year after year or every 2 years, so that the thinking and the action about responsible and sustainable tourism continues. I'm going to present for the opening of this conference, firstly, a brief history of the concept of sustainable tourism since Rio in 1992. Secondly, in a kind of evaluation of results, what has been the progress made since then, and this is my own personal evaluation. I don't pretend to interpret everyone. Some people may think that this is not a complete and exhaustive evaluation of the progress made. It's my own. And then, what are the main questions to look at to evaluate also the lack of progress, and what can we do from here onwards? So, let's see if this works. I'm afraid you have to do it. Okay. So, let's start by, at Rio 1992, tourism was actually not in the agenda at all. Not even side events on tourism were held. That is the fact. However, oh, that goes too fast. It's one by one. Soon after Rio, the World Tourism Organization and the World Travel and Tourism Council, which at that time was led by our friend Harold Goodwin, our friend Jeffrey Lippman, who is here and who will be speaking this afternoon. The two organizations took the initiative of translating the Rio Agenda 21 to the tourism sector. And the Agenda 21 for travel and tourism industry was issued, and we conducted a series of, when I say we, is the World Tourism Organization, where I worked for 13 years, conducted a series of seminars jointly with WTTC to disseminate Agenda 21 for travel and tourism. From 1992 to 1996, I think there were a number of efforts by international agencies, but mainly by NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to convey the issue of tourism sustainability to governments, to industry, and to consumers. In 1997, there was also a Rio +5 event, not as big as the Rio +10 or Rio +20, but the Commission on Sustainable Development of the UN put tourism in the agenda, and UNWTO, the World Tourism Organization, created a Sustainable Tourism Development Department within the House to better respond to the challenge and to generate more interest among member governments. In the period 1997 to 2001, there was an intensive work, research work, and also dissemination of results by World Tourism Organization, jointly with the United Nations Environment Programme, and a number of NGOs, supported by experts, academia, and some leading governments for achieving four main objectives, in my opinion. Firstly, to clarify and what I would call to purify the concept sustainable tourism development, because there was a lot of confusion as well between sustainable tourism and ecotourism. Ecotourism, for those who were not in those discussions, is a type of tourism leading with natural areas, which has to be sustainable. But that doesn't mean to say that other forms of tourism don't have to be sustainable. So we enlarge the concept sustainable tourism for all types of tourism, whether it's urban or commercial or business or thermal or whatever type of tourism. It's not only confined to ecotourism. Secondly, to gather experience, case studies, best practices, and disseminate successful examples by transferring knowledge from one country to another, from one enterprise to another. The third objective was to develop know-how, methodologies, evaluation indicators, and I recall here the enormous efforts made by, I think it was about 110 experts that we gathered to work on developing a manual on sustainable tourism indicators at the World Tourism Organization, which helped measure the progress a country is making in terms of sustainable tourism. So, we continued with, I think, another landmark was in 2001 when the Tour Operators Initiative for Sustainable Tourism was created. About 25 tour operators, supported by both the World Tourism Organization, the United Nations Environment Programme, and also UNESCO, supported this initiative for some very large tour operators, among others, TUI, for instance, and the Accor group of hotels and a few others, gathered together to promote within their companies a sustainable approach to tourism. In 2002, which was Rio + 10, the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, it was also the International Year of Ecotourism declared by the United Nations. We conducted some 10 regional preparatory conferences in all parts of the world. One of them was here in Brazil. We conducted a worldwide summit in Quebec, Canada, and many recommendations were issued focusing on ecotourism, but with a sustainable development approach. Also, at the Johannesburg summit, we managed to have a strong presence of the tourism sector and had a number of side events in addition to the preparatory conference on responsible tourism, which took place a few days before in Cape Town. We managed to have tourism, several articles of the document that resulted from the Johannesburg summit. Many articles, a number of articles rather, included tourism as a key element. So that was a first step to putting tourism in the global agenda. Also, it was the year where the concept of responsible tourism was introduced, particularly with the conference that we talked about in Cape Town. There were also attempts in those years to create a global accreditation system for sustainable tourism certification. The issue was discussed in the Commission for Sustainable Development of the UN. A special group was created to discuss the issue, but no agreement was reached at that time. We will see later that some progress has been made nowadays. In 2002 also, a number of governments started to include sustainability as one strategic objective of the national tourism policies and master plan. I made a quick survey of the countries that have put tourism in their agenda, at least in the name of the national tourism plan, and it's really impressive. Since 2000, more or less, most national tourism strategies have got the name or surname, if you want, sustainable. Countries, governments are no longer talking of tourism, simply tourism, but sustainable tourism. That doesn't mean to say that they are actually developing tourism in a sustainable manner, but at least in the name of their strategy, they have introduced the word sustainable. 2004, we produced jointly with UNEP a major book, again with the help of a number of academics and experts, Making Tourism More Sustainable, a Guide for Policymakers, which again was a landmark that has helped a number of governments and local and regional governments to apply the concepts and the practices of sustainability. The period from 2003 to 2007, several UN agencies, including the two I have mentioned, World Tourism Organization and UNEP, but also the International Trade Center, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, the World Health Organization, and a few others, supported by a number of NGOs and academia, addressed the issue of climate change and tourism, which came at the front discussion worldwide. The STEP initiative was launched in 2004, the Sustainable Tourism for Eradicating Poverty, which has put a focus on the poverty reduction potential of tourism for reducing poverty, which is part of the sustainability agenda. The period 2006-2009, the UN has a process of the Marrakesh process, so-called, and one of the task forces was established, led by the government of France. The Marrakesh task force on tourism started to work in 2006, and by 2009, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, composed of a number of international agencies, governments, private sector institutions, and NGOs, has been created and is trying to has already established a list of criteria that any certification for sustainable tourism must have, and trying to become then the accreditation system for the numerous certification systems on sustainable tourism that have appeared. None of them has managed to become universal, to cover all countries and to attract the universe of companies in the field or in the country. So the need for a global accreditation system is very